account, and said this money go down, and there's going to be charges, and reconnect late charge, and all that. It's all added up. Overwhelmed with it right now, but what can I do to have it not turned off? Well, you call me 111, what it's all about. Manager 77057. And our line is the helpline, okay? We're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to provide informational social services. So if you need pantry in your area, or just need help with such, okay? We're able to see which agency can assist in your area. Well, we have to search on your behalf. Now, around the last partner.
Okay, so you can listen to that, but that's what they do. They had 52,000 calls. The people who are stranded there are answering calls. They help other 211 centers across the country help. Food or shelter, financial. You come out here 100 days later, there's a spike right here. There's a spike in the water. This is medical. This is PTSD. This is a thunderstorm. And people are panicked, the water's coming up again. So this is the human record, and you can see it parallels the water record. Any questions on that? And I recommend you go look at the book and you'll see more detail on this. Lots of opportunities for kids to read charts, make analysis, draw conclusions, see water and human impact. There's a relationship. Phases are the same. The other thing we want to talk about here is communicating. Now we've got 2 of the dozen sand fields blown up here life-size. And as a geologist, I was kind of heart-struck at how little understanding there were that this is a normal thing here. A city that has probably more geologists in it than anywhere in the world. Wow. And this is part of our effort to try and communicate. This is where the artists help. Gather a little closer so we can hear better. That's okay, right? We're having trouble hearing way back here with the traffic. You want to move closer? Trying to get those. I haven't hit anyone today.
Biohazard. The dog or the pile?
Okay, here we have one of the sand peels from Hurricane Harvey. This one is Sand Peel Sculpture 3. And there are 12. It's also in your handout. This is this is the art object. So you saw how we pull the sand peels. So this came from the sediment deposits that were directly deposited from Hurricane Harvey flooding. And I think the next stop is at the site where we took them. So we can go into more detail as to how we collected them and where they were in relation to each other and the flows. But in this moment, we're going to kind of consider it as the art object. So this kind of, the decisions to make the peel look like this for presentation. Traditionally, from what I've seen from Jerry and the peels that he's done or showed me that have happened before, they're, framed mounted, right? Or
Square boxes.
Square boxes. But I was interested in kind of 2 things. One is like retaining what was actually collected. So I was like, what's the point of making it a square? It's not a square, right? This is a natural process, and there are these variables that affect this process, and I think that's important to share. Also, then a note in part of, I'll go back to it. So the edges kind of are cut to kind of mirror. We had one parameter, which was the size of what we thought we could manage. So they're approximately 2 feet by 4 feet, small, like a standard piece of plywood that you could purchase. So they all kind of had that baseline. So, and also the cheesecloth. That was kind of the width of the cheesecloth. And then from there, you can kind of see how the edges are straighter, partly because of the cheesecloth. But we tried to kind of retain some of the details that occurred in the actual collection, as opposed to squaring. And part of that is for reference to the reality of the physical situation, where we were talking about earlier what actually impregnates, or how deeply it impregnates. And so down here, this is actually, we added enough of this to have the impact of the mud because it didn't collect very much. So there's some artistic elements. But you can see in this one here, there are these pieces, pieces are kind of missing. And that's partly, we think, because there was more moisture there, so there was nowhere for the elbasite to go. But we were able to collect over here. So there was this really interesting, just like physical reality. But then also, you can't see in this interpretation, in this print, but again, we cut so that, or we mounted the board so that they're flat, they're not flush against the wall, they are elevated. And that was kind of important to me in the sense of showing that where they came from, that they came from something that was moving, it wasn't stagnant, in the water. And the end, they were painted so there's a reflection on the wall, as if you can see it best on a white wall. And you can kind of see that kind of glow of an essence of something else to reference where it came from. I'm trying to give people elements of the story in a way that enables imagination and creativity, which I think geology science has the ability to do. But it also, this is so cool because it references a real time and a real thing. So we've got a little, so kind of helping people to kind of achieve some imaginary thinking, creative thinking, and giving that kind of space, because when a lot of stories about the floods are about people and stuff, and this isn't about that, because that stuff gets really emotional, it's hard, right? I think we've all experienced it in some way, shape or form on our own, from these storms. Sure. Yeah, this one actually shows a little, it's not quite a direct cutout, so you can see some of the color that kind of comes from the reflection. So it kind of looks like it's floating, has this essence. So part of it is, I'm a believer that art should be a little strange, partly because I think it pushes you to think something, like art can push outside of your daily life, right? Your daily experience. And at the same time touch it. So I think that kind of creative imaginary thinking is important. Something that is also connected to science, which I think a lot of people consider as not very creative and imaginary, but it is. This is evidence of that. And part of it is showing that there are different ways to present, and there are different ways to challenge your students about how they present things, even science information. So yeah, this one. Do you want me to we'll wait. Okay. And then, yeah. Any questions about the kind of art process? Okay.
The next stop, we're going to go through how to read a peel. What's the setting rate? And that's at our next stop. We'll go where they came from.
Yeah. So you can think of them as a painting, but they're also record.
Okay, we're going to go down and under and over to the dog park.